On this prequel episode, we've got our Mortal Engines follow-up polls. We're learning about the media portrayal of the legal system and previewing Legally Blonde. Hello and welcome back to This Film Is Lit, the podcast where we talk about movies that are based on books. We're both sick, so we're probably sound a little weird. I sound a little off. I don't know if you do or not.
Yeah, I guess I probably do.
You don't sound too different.
I sound a little better than you.
Yeah, you were sick before me, and have gotten better before me. So, it's been a fun few weeks, moving and then sick again. So, we're gonna do our prequel episode. Our very first thing that we always do on our prequel episode is we give our little shout outs to our patrons. We have 2 new patrons this week for this prequel episode. I don't know when they joined actually, but probably not this week. But we have 2 new ones to announce. First up, we have at the $5 Hugo Award winner level, Alexis Walker. Thank you so much for joining the This Film Is Lit family. Second, $5 Hugo Award winning patron, Chad T. Mr. T's son, I believe. So thank you to both of you for becoming new patrons at the $5 level. Hope you enjoy our bonus content, which we're lacking on. Again, we're moved now. Hopefully both not going to be sick anymore. We'll have some more bonus episodes very shortly for you. Sorry for the delay. As always, we also want to thank our Academy Award winner patrons who are $15 level, support us for $15 a month. We have, what are we at, 6 now? It's quite a few.
Yeah.
First up, we got Gratch. Just Gratch. Followed by Corey Cloutier. Cloutier?
I don't know.
Cloutier. Corey Cloutier with a chance of meatballs. Shelby Suderman. Mr. Nobody. I want to be a badass aviatrix when I grow up. That's our lovely patron who changes their name every week to reflect the thing we're doing. And finally, Alina Doletkolova. Those are our Academy Award winner patrons. If you want to be among their ranks, you can just head to patreon.com/thisfilmislit. Support us for $15 a month. You get priority recommendations, which is why we did Mortal Engines, if you've heard, because Shelby Suderman wanted us to. We have some more recommendations that have come in. I believe Corey Cloutier just sent us one. Mm-hmm. I just saw it a few minutes ago, and it's already on our list. One of them was, and we were going to do it sooner than later, but now we'll do it even sooner. We won't say what it is yet, but all right, let's go ahead and talk about our Mortal Engines listener poll follow-up.
So I have a pretty quick one this time. We didn't get a ton of listener feedback.
I don't know how many people have ever read this book. I don't think a ton.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'd never heard of the book until...
I don't know how many people have seen the movie. Because apparently not a lot of people came out to the theater for it.
Fair. The episode did well, though. A lot of people listened to it. So, for a non-big, for Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings type thing. It did good for the first week. Better numbers than a normal episode.
Well, thanks, guys.
Not a lot, we do good. But yeah, I was like, oh, all right. So it was popular for whatever reason.
Nice. So on Twitter, we had 11 votes in our poll. 6 for the book, 5 for the movie. Approximately. Twitter doesn't give an exact count. They give percentages, so I guess. And we had a comment from Mr. Nobody. I assume the same Mr. Nobody of Academy Award winner Patreon fame.
One would assume.
They said, just finished the book. Better storyline in the book, but the YA level writing made it boring. Gonna respectfully disagree, Mr.
Ouch.
Nobody. I'm giving this one to the film. I liked the color palette. So at least there was something in the film that was enjoyable. And then over on Facebook, we had 2 votes. Both of them were for the book. And we had a comment from Anthony, who said, I haven't read the book or watched the movie, but between the Mortal Engines Flophouse podcast episode and this episode, I think I might enjoy the books more. Engaging story, more as an engaging story, and the movie as a good bad film. That's why I picked the book as better.
There you go. All right. Those are our follow-up polls for Mortal Engines. Thank you to everybody who commented and voted. If you want to do that, just follow us on all the social media platforms. All right, let's go ahead. We got a Learning Things segment this week. We're learning about the media's portrayal of the legal system.
No matter what anybody tells you, words and ideas can change the world.
It's wrong. I can assure you.
So we know that movies and TV are both guilty of jazzing things up.
Yeah.
And they do that with pretty much everything. I can't think of a single thing that screenwriters, directors, etc., do not do that for.
Real life's boring.
Real life is pretty boring.
Or can be.
And you know what is also especially boring? The legal system.
Can be.
So it is definitely one of those things that gets especially jazzed up.
Yes.
For the movies and for TV.
Yes.
So to pull an example from the film that we're talking about, Legally Blonde, at one point in the movie, this is not really a spoiler. I guess it's kind of a spoiler if you've never seen it. But at one point in the movie, Elle, the main character, cites a Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court ruling that allows her, in the movie, to stand counsel in the main case during the film, despite being a law student. That wouldn't happen in reality.
You can't be counsel in a court case if you're not barred. I would go out on a limb and say, unless whatever this particular thing is a real thing.
Apparently does exist, but there would be like way more loopholes that she would have to jump through.
Yeah,
like the movie portrays it as happening like very easily over the span of like 30 seconds.
Of course, yes.
So according to what I found on the internet, there would be like way more loopholes she'd have to jump through, and it wouldn't even happen anyway because she would have to have been a senior in law school, and she's a freshman. She's like first year in the movie. So, you know, one of those cases where they take something where there is like a teeny tiny little nugget of truth and just kind of away we go with it. Yeah.
I really, really should have gotten input. So, some of you people might know or may listen to one of the podcasts that I'm a fan of is called Opening Arguments. It's a law podcast that breaks down like news and local or current events and breaks them down from a legal perspective. One of the hosts of the show is lawyer Andrew Torres. He's actually also the lawyer for Good Bad or Bad Bad or Good Bad Media LLC, which is me and Kyle's company. He did all of our incorporating and stuff like that because he works with small businesses primarily. But he is a Harvard law student. He graduated from Harvard, and so he would particularly probably know about this Massachusetts Supreme Judicial Court thing, this rule. They may have also done Legally Blonde on their podcast for their Patron feed. They do popular movies and talk about how terrible the law in them is. So there may be, if you go check out Opening Arguments and check out their Patron feed, they may have a specific episode about Legally Blonde. I'm not sure. I don't remember if they've done it or not yet, but they've done a bunch of movies.
I wouldn't be surprised. That's maybe one of the better known legal movies.
Yeah, I mean, you got your My Cousin Vinny's and your Miracle on 34th Street and 12 Angry Men and whatnot. But yeah, it's a pretty popular law movie. Although actually, I'm not even sure how much law, like courtroom stuff there is in the movie. I guess I'll find out. But like, because she was like in school, I thought it was like, well, obviously, because that's this whole premise here. But there is obviously at least some courtroom stuff. Anyways, I'm done. Go ahead. Continue.
So when it comes to the way that the media portrays kind of the legal system, the process leading up to a trial particularly was what I mostly was able to research. There is a lot of myths that abound. I have come up with a short list of 5 myths here. So starting from the top, our first myth I'm calling one team from start to finish. So
the CSI.
Yeah, the idea. We'll talk more about CSI later. Yeah. But the idea that like
or Law and Order or whatever. Yeah.
Everybody at the crime scene is both a detective and a crime scene technician. They all work really closely with the attorneys. Everyone testifies in court.
The guys who do my favorite is from CSI it's like Gil Grissom, who's like the head of the CSI department, and he's like a bug specialist, at least in the original CSI, is also the guy going like knocking through doors with his gun out, like Like when they're like raiding the big bad guys at the end of the episode, when they're going to catch the big bad guy, he's like there with them with a gun and a bulletproof vest.
Like everybody can do every job and they're all involved in every single step from start to finish, which is totally not the case. All of those different elements, those different jobs, they're all moving parts within a case. So like a crime scene technician might work at the scene of the crime and in the lab. You might find that person in both of those places, but they generally aren't going to be involved in like investigating the case like a detective would.
Yeah.
And a detective might gather evidence, but they're probably not also analyzing the DNA.
No.
A lawyer's going to question a witness, but it's going to be as part of a trial, not as part of an investigation.
Yeah. Not, at least, the prosecutor. I don't know exactly. Yeah. They kind of, they play fast and loose and everybody does everything in the TV shows.
We have to have our main characters that we love. We have to follow them.
That's the thing. It's boring. I don't care about, I don't want to see lab technicians see and watch them do their DNA analysis. Make the main guy do it.
So that was our first myth. Our next myth, I'm going to talk about evidence processing speed. We could just talk about like evidence processing in general. TV takes it maybe a little more high tech.
Oh, for sure.
Than what most places would have access to.
Absolutely.
But speed, I think, is something that really gets like cranked up on TV and in the movies. Like, especially with some TV shows, I think it's pretty easy to get the idea that evidence can be processed, like, within a couple hours.
Yeah.
And in some cases, it might be possible to get that evidence processed within a few days, but more likely weeks, months, maybe longer.
The legal system takes years.
The legal
for
system
anything to
is
happen.
a nightmare. Yeah. And there can be backlogs for a lot of different reasons, but it's time consuming to process evidence. It's also expensive. I have pulled an example here. It takes 90 days to test a rape kit, and it costs between $1,000 and $1,500.
That's the average time. I assume that's like the average time.
It's like an
takes.
average,
Yeah, like how far long it takes to process. Because I'm sure it doesn't take that long to like do it, but it's just by the time it gets in the system, and then somebody gets around to doing it, and blah blah blah. Yeah, it takes forever. Yeah, because of paper. Yeah, all kinds of nonsense.
And speaking of evidence, that brings me up to our third myth: the myth that there will always be forensic evidence. You're watching a TV show, you're watching a movie, there's almost always a smoking gun, right? There's DNA left behind or a fingerprint that got overlooked until the last minute, etc., etc. Audiences expect to see that, and it does make for exciting storytelling.
Yeah.
But it actually has some pretty serious real-world consequences. This is a real thing. It's called the CSI effect. So jurors expect to see that dynamic smoking gun evidence when they're in a real-world courtroom, which means that they're less willing to accept basic criminal trial evidence, and that creates an additional burden of proof for prosecutors, which can be a problem, considering that, most criminal cases don't go to trial and get decided by juries. So the ones that do tend to carry the highest dangers or maybe the most severe punishments, not the type of stuff where you want to run the risk of false acquittals or wrongful convictions.
Yeah.
And that brings me to our fourth myth, the myth that this is always going to be a super exciting process. Everything is more interesting on TV and in the movies, like we said. But it's work. It's people's jobs. Just like any other job, it's pretty much just a daily grind punctuated by occasional excitement and interest.
Yeah. Yes, it's very boring.
Yeah. It's a lot of like paperwork. A lot of paperwork. It's not really as exciting as what you see on the screen. And then our fifth myth, the myth that everything will always wrap up quickly and neatly and perfectly. Process of building a case is slow, can take weeks, months, years, depending on what the case is. Once the investigation is over, That legal case can also take an incredibly long time. Lawyers build cases really carefully to give themselves the best chance at the outcome that they want. It's not just the rapid fire, rat-a-tat-tat, exciting back and forth courtroom questioning that you see on screen. It's a lot of stuff that happens behind the scenes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of ways that the process of a trial can be dragged out for a long time.
Yep. Yeah, and then there's a million appeals, and
Yeah,
so like
there's
once
a million appeals, there's a million things that can go wrong. It's not always going to be like a nice shiny bow at the end.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, at least specifically in the courtroom, that on opening arguments that he always talks about, that is not a thing, that is in every court thing ever, is the surprise witness. Where it's like, I call the stand blank, and they swing open the doors of the courtroom, and there's this magic witness standing there that the defense or the prosecutor or whoever had no idea about. That's not how That's not how that works.
That's not how that works at all.
You can't call surprise witnesses.
Yeah.
It's not allowed.
You're not allowed to just surprise the other attorney.
No. They're well aware of all the witnesses that will be testifying and all that sort of thing. So there are no surprise witnesses and all that kind of stuff. There's no surprise evidence. All the evidence has to be entered ahead of time, and that's sort of like barring like extreme circumstances, I think. But in general, like, yeah, there's not surprise evidence. There's not surprise witnesses. Both court team or both attorney teams have to know, everything that's going on, and like you're talking about with the sort of back and forth in the courtroom, it's that Andrew always talks about how no good lawyer will ever ask a question that they don't know the answer to.
Yeah.
So there's never like those surprises and stuff that you get in like real court or like in TV court shows and that sort of thing. It's not so much of a thing in real life because they do a lot, like you said, it's a lot of research behind the scenes. Everything they want to know and everything they need to know, they figure out ahead of time. And the courtroom is just there to convince the jury. There can be theatrics to it, obviously, and how you present that.
The old razzle dazzle.
But there's no, they're not. If you're surprised in the courtroom as a lawyer, you're bad at your job. Is what I've kind of surmised from what I've heard. So, all right, that's it for our Learning Things segment. Let's go ahead and talk about Legally Blonde, the book.
One of the reasons I wanted to come here tonight was to discuss our future.
Of course.
I plan on running for office someday.
Warner.
I think we should break up.
What?
Elle. If I'm gonna be a senator, I need someone serious.
I'm seriously in love with you.
I love you.
Liar! This is the type of girl that Warner wants to marry. A law student.
So Legally Blonde is a comedy novel by American author Amanda Brown, with a copyright credit also going to Bridget Kerrigan. More on that later.
Oh, so is this stolen?
Oh, this is a very interesting research time for me. This book was actually self-published by Amanda Brown in 2001, the same year that the movie came out. And then officially published in 2003. The novel is based on Brown's experiences while she was enrolled in Stanford Law School. She never actually received a JD, but she was enrolled there for a year, I think.
Yeah.
I want to say. Amanda herself calls the story only semi-autobiographical. She says Elle Woods reminds her more of her mother than of herself. So make of that what you will. So how this book came to be, according to the research that I did, Amanda was enrolled at Stanford, and instead of studying or participating in her classes, she basically used it as time to observe people and gather material. She would write long letters to her friends, letting them know all of her observations of the people that she had classes with. And then she wrote Legally Blonde after a literary agent advised her to turn her original idea, which was going to be a book of essays, into a novel format. She supposedly took a community college writing class, put together a manuscript, and then shopped the book around. She said she used pink paper to try to attract attention. No book agents wanted it. But the Hollywood people loved it.
There you go. Lower standards.
Thus, Legally Blonde was born. So she didn't really have a lot of friends while she was at Stanford, as one could maybe imagine. There was one person who allegedly said that the film really did capture certain individuals who I will not name. So I thought that was kind of funny. Going back to Bridget Kerrigan and her copyright credit in this book. So I found some kind of differing information here. Apparently, there is a non-disclosure agreement that keeps either party from discussing this. There is also a rumor that they co-wrote it and then had a falling out, and then Amanda paid Bridget a lump sum of money and a copyright credit to go away.
Okay.
One thing I did find in the summer of 2001, Bridget Kerrigan wrote to the alumni magazine at Harvard, where she, I believe, ended up graduating from. As the Harvard Law Bulletin reported in its spring issue, the story of a fashionable blonde turned law student, which I co-wrote in law school with my childhood friend Amanda Brown, is now a movie. Though we did not set the original story at Harvard, its venue has been shifted there for Legally Blonde. Look and you might see yourselves. Okay. So some confirmation there, according to her, they co-wrote it.
Yeah.
Whatever happened post that.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I don't know. And how much of the book was written by Amanda Brown, how much of it was written by Bridget Kerrigan, the world may never know.
Wild.
But I read, as I was doing research for this, I read the cattiest and most amazing personal profile that I've maybe ever read in my entire life about Amanda Brown.
Okay.
It was in the Phoenix New Times. I'm going to post it on our Facebook and Twitter if anybody wants to read it.
Okay.
It's a little bit long. To me, it was worth it because it was so catty and hilarious. So her family is from Phoenix, and the vibe that I got was that she is not well liked.
Huh. And who was this written by?
I was just a reporter, I think.
Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Just like a reporter for this paper.
Interesting.
Just like a local Phoenix paper.
She must have wronged some newspaper reporter.
I don't know.
Wild.
It was kind of a wild article. I'm going to post it if anybody wants to read it. I thought it was hilarious.
All right, that's it for our book facts. Let's go ahead and talk about Legally Blonde, the movie.
Reese Witherspoon.
Do you remember when we spent those 4 amazing hours in the hot tub after winter formal? This is so much better than that.
Legally Blonde.
Oh, look how cute. There's like a judge and everything. Love around.
Legally Blonde is a 2001 film directed by Robert Luketic of The Ugly Truth, Killers, and Monster-in-Law. Basically, he directs romantic comedy films that all have that as exact same poster. That's like a white background with a guy and a girl like leaning against each other's backs. Basically, look, I'm not even kidding. All of his like most known for are all the exact same movie cover poster thing.
He has a style.
Yeah.
What can I say?
So the book was adapted by Karen McCullough and Kristen Smith. They're a writing team that wrote 10 Things I Hate About You, House Bunny, Ella Enchanted, and She's the Man. So it's the second of their stories or films that we've done.
Yeah.
They spent 2 days on campus at Stanford doing research for their screenplay. Both USC and Stanford refused to allow the movie to use their name. They asked if they could set the film at USC. This is a quote. They asked if they could set the film at USC, but the images of her as an undergraduate and being in a sorority, we felt there was too much stereotyping going on. And that was said by Elijah May, who is the campus filming coordinator at USC at the time. So they didn't like the film, or they didn't like the idea of their university being in the movie. Reese Witherspoon spent time researching her character, apparently, by hanging out with sorority girls and going to dinner with them. She said of her research, quote, by going down to Beverly Hills, hanging out in Neiman Marcus, eating in their cafe, and seeing how these women walk and speak, I got into the reality of the character. I saw how polite these women are, and I saw how much they value their female friendships and how important it is to support each other, end quote. So this is interesting. It's like the only thing I know about this movie. The famous bend and snap scene almost didn't make it into the movie. Wasn't in the original script. Apparently it's not in the book, so that's a spoiler. Yeah, I mean, I unfortunately kind of
suspected it wasn't.
The producer apparently wanted a B-plot for Jennifer Coolidge's character, Paulette, and so the writers, McCullough and Smith, brainstormed several ideas, including like a store robbery. I don't know what that has to do with the movie or whatever, but maybe she works at a store. But during one of their brainstorming sessions, McCullough came up with the idea of using a move, quote-unquote, to get the UPS guy, and then co-writer Smith invented the move on the spot. They said, quote, it was a completely drunken moment in a bar, end quote. And then Witherspoon has said, I have a feeling I'll be doing the bend and snap until I'm 95. So she has to do it everywhere she goes. So the movie grossed $140 million worldwide against a budget of only $18 million, which made it kind of a sleeper hit for the studio. Made a lot of money, which is why they made at least one sequel, if not two.
They made like two, I think, yeah.
The movie has a 69% fresh score on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics praised Witherspoon's performance for elevating the film above its predictable structure and narrative. Basically, you know, it's an okay movie, but Reese Witherspoon takes it to the next level. At the 2001 Golden Globe Awards, the film was nominated for Best Picture, Musical, or Comedy, and the same year, Reese Witherspoon was also nominated for Best Actress at the Golden Globes. Now starts the few IMDb fun facts that are almost assuredly not true. As agreed in her contract, Reese Witherspoon kept all of her costumes after filming. Apparently she had that one written in. Again, this is, who knows? All these, you never know. The IMDb facts, I'm like 99% sure are all made up. Throughout the course of the film, Elle Woods, which was the main character, Reese Witherspoon's character, has 40 different hairstyles. Supposedly.
If I didn't have anything else to pay attention to while we were watching this, I'd keep a tally.
Yeah, keep a tally if you're watching the movie.
Yeah, maybe somebody else can keep a tally for us.
Don't do that. And then finally, I thought this was interesting. These are all actresses who were also considered for the role of Elle Woods. Charlize Theron, Gwyneth Paltrow, Alicia Silverstone, Katherine Heigl, Christina Applegate, Mia Jovovich, and Jennifer Love Hewitt.
That's a list that makes sense.
It all makes sense. Yeah, those all make sense.
Yeah. Those
are all like the people that you would get for this role.
Especially at that time period.
Yeah, for sure. So that's all I got. We'll see.
Well, I'm excited.
I am too.
I like this movie. I've started reading the book and I'm really amped because I think it's going to be a bad book.
Oh. Yeah.
Like, it seems kind of poorly written so far.
Well, it wouldn't surprise me based on your little book research you did there about nobody wanting to publish it, and then the movies being like, we can make this into a movie, though.
You guys don't know this yet because we haven't had occasion to talk about it on the podcast. We've never done a poorly written book.
Oh, yeah.
But the only thing I love more than a bad movie is a bad book. Oh, I love bad books. This is going to be fun. I'm excited. I'm excited too. So in 1 week's time, come on back and you'll hear our thoughts and Katie's vicious breakdown, teardown of the Legally Blonde book. Until that time, if you want to do us a favor, you can go to patreon.com/thisfilmslit. Support us. That would be great. You can also follow us on all the social media. That's also great. You can also do us a big favor and give us a review on iTunes. That's super cool too. And if you don't do any of that stuff, that's fine. Till that time, guys, girls, non-binary, and everybody else. Keep reading books. Keep watching movies. And keep being awesome. Don't get sick. It sucks. It's real bad.